The sun dipped low over the jagged cliffs, casting long shadows across the settlement. Smoke rose faintly from the small homes, and the air carried the scent of scorched earth. Humans and dragons had coexisted uneasily here for years, but the recent attack had left the human settlement vulnerable. Supplies were low, defenses were weak, and fear hung heavy. In the midst of this chaos, a decision had been made, one that terrified everyone involved. A small group of humans, carrying a single human infant swaddled in cloth, approached the edge of a wide canyon. From above, a massive shadow shifted, wings stretching across the sky. Velora, the deadliest dragon mother in the region, hovered silently, her amber eyes fixed on the tiny figures below. Her scales were dark as midnight, glinting faintly in the sunset, and long scars ran along her wings and flanks. Every movement radiated strength and danger. Kale, the infant's father, led the group. His hands shook slightly, though his face remained calm. "Stay close, keep quiet," he whispered to the others. The dragon's gaze followed them, measuring, judging. One wrong move, one misstep, and the infant could be lost forever. The humans were painfully aware of the risk, yet they had no choice. Velora's lair, perched in the cliffs above, had always been off-limits to humans. Now it was their only hope. The group stopped at a safe distance. Kale lifted the infant slightly, cradling him gently. "Please, accept him," he murmured. The dragon's head tilted, nostrils flaring as she inhaled the scent of the tiny human. A low growl rumbled from her throat, warning them to keep their distance. Her claws scraped against the rock ledge as she flexed her wings, ready to strike if provoked. The humans froze, their hearts pounding in their chests. Velora lowered her massive head slowly, eyes never leaving the infant. Kale extended his arms carefully, presenting the child without sudden movement. "We mean no harm," he said softly. His voice was calm, steady. The dragon's amber eyes narrowed, studying him, studying the infant. For a tense moment, nothing moved. The wind whispered through the canyon, carrying the faint cries of the baby upward. Then, almost imperceptibly, Velora leaned closer. Her wings flared slightly to balance her weight. Kale's chest tightened. Every instinct screamed danger, yet he also sensed something unexpected, a trace of curiosity in her gaze. She lowered her snout, nostrils brushing the edge of the infant's blanket. The baby stirred but did not cry, sensing, perhaps, the calmness of Kale's hold and the careful approach of the dragon. The humans remained motionless, watching as the deadliest dragon mother made her decision. Kale's mind raced. He had studied dragons for years, learned to read their body language and subtle gestures. He knew this moment could change everything, or end in tragedy. He adjusted his stance, keeping his arms steady, letting the baby rest securely. "It's only a child," he whispered. "No threat, just life." Velora's eyes flicked between Kale and the infant, amber gaze unblinking. Her wings shifted slightly, claws scraping against stone, muscles tensing as if she were weighing her options. Then, with a deliberate slowness, she extended one claw, talons glinting, hovering just above the swaddled baby. Kale held his breath, feeling the immense heat radiating from her body. One touch, one accidental movement, and everything could end. Instead, she lowered her claw gently, careful and precise, until it rested lightly on the infant's blanket. Kale exhaled slowly, relief washing over him. Velora studied the child for a long moment, amber eyes softening, and then she nudged him lightly with her snout. The baby gurgled, reaching tiny hands toward her. Velora froze for a heartbeat, then allowed a small, almost imperceptible tilt of her head. It was a gesture of acceptance, a silent promise that the child was hers to protect now. Kale stepped back, letting the dragon mother assume control. She lifted the infant carefully with her claw, cradling him close to her chest. The group of humans watched, hearts pounding, as the deadliest dragon mother who had once been feared across the cliffs now held their most precious life with care and gentleness. Even in her immense size and strength, she moved with careful precision, making sure the child was safe. The wind swept through the canyon, rustling the dragon's dark scales. Kale felt a mix of awe and disbelief. He had never imagined such a moment could occur, human and dragon forming a bond in a world that had always kept them apart. The infant cooed softly, unaware of the danger he had just faced, and Velora's massive eyes softened further. As she settled onto the cliff ledge, wings folding around herself and the child, Kale whispered to the others, "She's accepted him. He's safe for now." The group remained frozen, knowing that trust had been earned in a single, tense moment. Velora's acceptance was more than instinct, it was a recognition of life, a decision that would shape the future in ways they could not yet imagine. The sun dipped fully below the horizon, casting the cliffs in shadow. Velora, the deadliest dragon mother, cradled the human infant as though he were her own. Cale felt the weight of the moment settle in his chest. This was the beginning of something extraordinary. A bond had been forged against fear, against instinct, against every expectation. Human courage and patience had met dragon intelligence and maternal instinct, and for the first time the impossible seemed possible. The night grew quiet, the valley still except for the soft breathing of the dragon and the gentle coos of the child. Cale and the others watched from a distance, understanding that this was more than survival. It was a first step toward a connection that could redefine the relationship between humans and dragons forever. The cliff was no longer just a place of danger, it had become a place of trust, care, and the fragile beginnings of a family born in fire and courage. The first light of dawn crept over the cliffs, turning the jagged rocks a soft gold. Velora, the deadliest dragon mother, settled onto the ledge, her massive wings folded but tense. Cradled carefully against her chest was the human infant, swaddled in soft cloth. The small life nestled safely against her scales, and for the first time she allowed herself to study him, not as prey, not as an intruder, but as something fragile yet precious. Cale approached cautiously, keeping his movements slow and deliberate. His heart raced, not from fear alone but from awe. He had seen dragons from a distance, had studied their habits, but standing near Velora now, seeing her maternal instincts emerge, was unlike anything he had imagined. He knelt at a safe distance, speaking softly. "Good morning, he's safe with you." His voice carried calm, reassurance, and patience. Velora's amber eyes flicked toward him. Her head tilted, nostrils flaring as she inhaled the scent of the small human. There was wariness there, a reminder that she had once been feared and respected by all who knew her. But beneath it there was a spark of curiosity. Cale noticed it and allowed himself a small exhale, keeping his hands visible and his posture low. Any sudden movement could undo the fragile trust forming between them. Elara stayed behind Cale, observing quietly. She had learned quickly that dragons read gestures and tone far more than words. One wrong glance or hurried step could trigger instinctive reactions. "Father, she's curious," she whispered. Cale nodded. "Yes, but cautiously. That's how trust begins." Velora nudged the infant lightly with her snout, careful not to disturb him. The baby stirred, tiny hands reaching up, and she paused, eyes narrowing slightly. Then she extended one claw, the massive talons hovering just above the swaddled child. Cale held his breath. Every instinct screamed danger, yet there was no aggression, only careful observation. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Velora lowered her claw, brushing it gently against the blanket. The infant cooed, and for a moment the dragon froze, eyes wide and amber, as if startled by the tiny sound. Then she shifted, pressing closer, allowing the small, gentle movements to continue. Cale realized this was her test, assessing whether the humans would react with fear or calm. He stayed still, speaking in soft tones. "It's okay, he's safe. You can trust us." Velora's head tilted, nostrils flaring again, but her movements remained careful and precise. She lifted the child slightly with her claw, cradling him closer to her chest. The baby rested his tiny head against her scales, and she exhaled a slow, low rumble, a sound that seemed to bridge caution with recognition. The humans watched in awe. Even Cale, who had faced countless dangers, felt the weight of the moment. A dragon that had inspired fear across the galaxy now held a human infant with gentleness and care. It was a delicate balance, her power intact, her instincts sharp, yet tempered by a new maternal impulse. The HFY element was clear. Human patience, observation, and intelligence were earning the trust of a being far stronger, more ancient, and instinctively dangerous. Velora flexed her wings slightly, testing her strength while keeping the child safe. Cale and Elara noted every gesture, learning how to communicate without words. Elara whispered, "She's learning to accept him, and us." Cale nodded. "Yes, and we must respect her pace. One wrong step and it could end badly." He adjusted his posture, showing neither dominance nor fear, only steady reassurance. 4 hours, the dragon remained still, cradling the infant, allowing him to explore the soft feathers of her scales with his tiny hands. She moved with careful precision, adjusting her position to provide comfort, her amber eyes scanning for threats while simultaneously observing the humans. Cale provided water and soft foods at a distance, speaking gently to show that their presence was not a threat. As the day progressed, Velora lowered herself into a comfortable resting position, wings folding protectively around the infant. Kale approached cautiously, kneeling nearby, and held out a small toy, a simple wooden figure. The dragon watched him carefully, then nudged the toy lightly with her snout toward the baby. The infant reached for it, eyes wide, and Velora exhaled slowly, amber gaze softening. Elara smiled quietly. She's sharing. Kale nodded, marveling at the subtle intelligence. Yes, and she's choosing to teach, not harm. That's trust. The bond had formed not through dominance, but through patience, observation, and gentle care. The humans were learning, but Velora was learning as well, learning that these small creatures could be allies, not enemies. By evening the wind cooled, rustling the cliffside. Velora settled fully, tucking the infant close. Kale and Elara stayed nearby, speaking softly and moving slowly, respecting her boundaries. The child cooed and stirred, and she responded with gentle rumbles and careful nudges. In that quiet moment, a partnership had begun, fragile yet profound. As the twin moons rose over the horizon, Velora exhaled slowly, amber eyes half closed in a gesture of trust. The humans understood, they had not conquered her, nor tamed her. Instead, they had earned recognition through intelligence, patience, and empathy. The infant, safe in her care, was the symbol of a new bond, one that could reshape the understanding between humans and dragons forever. Kale whispered softly, "We've done well today, this is only the beginning." The dragon shifted slightly, curling around the child, and for the first time she allowed a gentle, almost maternal hum to escape her throat. It was the first touch, the first act of care, and the start of a bond that would define the future of both species. The sun rose over the cliffs, casting a warm glow on the rocky plateau where Velora, the deadliest dragon mother, rested with the human infant cradled against her chest. Her amber eyes scanned the horizon constantly, alert to every movement. Kale watched from a safe distance, his heart still pounding from the previous day's tense moments. The dragon had accepted the child, but trust was fragile, and every day brought new challenges. Elara, small but steady, approached cautiously, carrying a small bowl of water and soft food. She spoke gently, her voice calm, careful not to startle Velora. "It's safe, see?" Velora's head tilted, nostrils flaring slightly as she observed the girl. The infant cooed softly, reaching tiny hands toward Elara. Velora's massive wings flexed subtly, a sign of both curiosity and caution. She was protective of the child but intrigued by the human presence, a balance that required careful observation. Kale stepped closer, keeping his movements deliberate and slow. "We don't mean harm," he whispered, his voice carrying calm assurance. The dragon's amber eyes followed every motion. She flexed her claws and shifted slightly, testing the humans without aggression. The infant gurgled, cooed, and kicked, completely unaware of the tension in the air. Somehow, in this fragile moment, the smallest life had become the bridge between two vastly different beings. Over the next hours, Kale and Elara observed carefully, learning Velora's rhythms. She moved with grace, every step measured, wings flexing subtly to maintain balance while keeping the infant safe. When the wind gusted sharply through the cliffs, she shifted instantly, tucking the child closer. Kale noted the precision, every movement calculated, not just instinct but intelligence paired with maternal instinct. The human child had become a catalyst for connection, teaching patience and understanding to both dragon and human alike. The plateau was quiet, but distant sounds hinted at dangers lurking nearby. Rival dragons often patrolled the cliffs, curious about the new presence. Predators from the valley occasionally prowled the edges. Kale understood that survival required more than care. It required observation, foresight, and calm courage. Every gesture, every whisper, every careful placement of a hand or tool mattered. HFY themes shone clearly. Humans could match intelligence with empathy, even against threats far stronger than themselves. Velora shifted, nudging the infant gently with her snout. The baby giggled and reached out tiny hands, fingers brushing against her scales. Kale's chest swelled. He realized that the bond was mutual. Velora was learning to trust humans, and the humans were learning to respect and communicate with dragons. Elara knelt nearby, observing the subtle signs, the flick of a tail, a shift in wings, the tilt of the head. Every movement was part of an unspoken language they were slowly decoding. Hours passed as the humans and dragons shared the plateau in careful harmony. Kale placed a small blanket under the child, offering comfort while allowing Velora to cradle him. She adjusted the infant gently, wings wrapping protectively, and exhaled a slow rumble, almost a song. The sound vibrated softly through the rocks, and Kale felt the weight of its significance. This was not submission, not taming, It was a recognition, a choice. Velora had chosen to protect, to bond, and to trust. As evening approached, shadows lengthened across the cliffs. Kale spotted movement high above. Other dragons circling silently, their eyes fixed on the scene below. Velora lifted her head, amber eyes alert, wings flexing defensively. Kale whispered reassurance, moving slowly to show no threat. The infant cooed, unaware, and the dragon exhaled slowly, settling back into a protective posture. The observers lingered, assessing. Respect had to be earned, and humans had done so through intelligence, patience, and courage. Night fell, stars glittering above the cliffs. Velora tucked the infant close, her wings enveloping him completely. Kale and Alara maintained their positions nearby, careful not to disturb her. The child stirred and cooed softly, and the dragon responded with gentle nudges and low rumbles. It was a simple exchange, yet profound, a bond forming across species through care, intelligence, and understanding. HFY themes shone brightly. Humans, though physically weaker, could achieve connection and influence through empathy and strategy. Kale studied her movements. Every subtle shift, every adjustment of her wings, every careful flex of her claws showed both instinct and intelligence. He realized that the infant was teaching both of them, humans and dragon alike, how to coexist. Velora's trust was growing, and with it, a new understanding. The child was not just protected. He was shaping a legacy of cooperation, patience, and mutual respect. Alara reached out slowly, letting the infant touch her fingers. Velora's head shifted slightly, amber eyes softening. She allowed the gesture, a quiet acknowledgement of human presence and care. Kale smiled, recognizing the significance. This was the heart of HFY, human ingenuity and empathy earning recognition and respect from creatures far older, stronger, and wiser. As the night deepened, Velora curled around the infant, wings folding tightly, eyes alert but calm. Kale and Alara settled nearby, keeping their presence minimal yet protective. The plateau was quiet except for the soft breathing of dragon and child, punctuated by the occasional low rumble of approval. This shared stillness was their unspoken pact: protection, care, and growing trust. For the first time, Kale felt a deep sense of hope. Despite the dangers surrounding them, the cliffs, rival dragons, predators, and the uncertainties of the galaxy, they had begun something extraordinary. The infant's life had become the bridge between species, and their bond, forged in patience and courage, promised a future where humans and dragons could coexist in respect and understanding. By the first light of the new day, Velora had moved slightly, testing her wings and body while keeping the infant safe. Kale whispered softly, "You're learning to trust, and so are we." The dragon exhaled slowly, a gentle rumble that seemed almost like agreement. The bond had begun, strong and fragile at once, a foundation for the incredible challenges and joys that lay ahead. The morning sun broke over the cliffs, casting long shadows across the plateau. Velora, the deadliest dragon mother, rested with the human infant cradled safely against her chest. Her amber eyes scanned the horizon, alert for any threat. Kale and Alara stayed at a careful distance, observing and learning her movements. Trust had grown between them, but it remained fragile, and today it would face its first real test. A sudden roar echoed from the canyon below. Rival dragons, drawn by curiosity and the scent of the human child, circled above the cliffs. Their wings cut the air sharply, shadows flicking over rocks and plateau alike. Velora's posture stiffened immediately. Her claws dug into stone, her wings flexed, and her head tilted, measuring the intruders. The infant stirred slightly, sensing the tension, and Kale's heart raced. Every movement had to be careful. One wrong step could provoke violence. Velora lifted herself slightly, spreading her wings in a defensive stance. The rival dragons circled, sizing her up, hissing and snapping. Kale stepped forward slowly, hands raised, showing calm and respect. "It's okay, we don't want to fight," he whispered. His voice carried calm intelligence, the careful tone that had earned her trust before. The dragon mother's amber eyes flicked toward him briefly as if weighing his words. Then she focused back on the threats, muscles tense, wings poised for action. The rival dragons swooped closer, their intentions unclear. Some were curious, some territorial, and some hungry. Velora exhaled a low rumble, a warning to stay back. The infant cooed softly, unaware of the danger. Kale moved slowly, positioning himself near the edge of the plateau, ready to act if needed, but not to command or interfere with Velora's decisions. He understood that intelligence and patience, not strength, were their tools. The standoff continued, each second stretching with tension. Velora flared her wings, sending powerful gusts of wind that rattled rocks and shook loose dust. The rival dragons hesitated but did not retreat. The infant wriggled slightly and Kale held his breath. Velora lowered her head, pressing the child closer to her chest. Her body language was clear. This child was under her protection, and any who threatened him would face her full power. Kale assessed the situation, knowing he could not fight the dragons physically. Instead, he focused on subtle movements, signaling calm and neutrality. He placed a hand over his chest, nodding slightly toward Velora, showing respect for her instincts and authority. The Dragon Mother's amber eyes softened for a moment, acknowledging his understanding. The bond they had built was being tested, and Kale realized that his calm presence was as important as her strength. One of the rival dragons made a sudden dive, claws extended, testing Velora's reaction. She shifted instantly, wings snapping open, creating a barrier of air and power. The intruder skidded midair, narrowly avoiding her talons, and hesitated. Velora's low growl vibrated through the plateau, a sound of warning and dominance. The humans held their ground, silent and steady, letting her demonstrate control. Minutes passed, each second a delicate balance of threat and restraint. Kale noticed the subtle changes in Velora's posture, slight shifts of her wings, careful adjustments of her claws, and the gentle hum of rumbling vibrations. The infant cooed again and she responded with soft nudges and protective curling. Even in the presence of danger, her maternal instincts overrode aggression toward the child. Kale's careful observation confirmed that trust was real, but vigilance was required. Ilara whispered softly, "She's keeping him safe, and she's aware of us too." Kale nodded. "Yes. But she also trusts that we will not make sudden moves. This is the test. Our intelligence and patience are part of her protection." The rival dragons, seeing Velora's resolve, began to retreat slowly. She followed their movements, wings still flexed, amber eyes unblinking, ensuring they left without harming the plateau or the infant. As the rivals disappeared into the distance, Velora exhaled slowly, wings folding neatly against her massive body. She lowered the infant closer, cradling him safely against her chest. The baby yawned and stretched tiny arms, completely unaware of the danger he had just been protected from. Kale stepped forward cautiously, speaking in soft tones. "You did well, and so did we," he said, acknowledging both her strength and the human effort that had supported her. Velora's amber eyes met Kale's briefly, and she gave a slow, deliberate nod, a gesture of recognition. The trust between them had been tested and had endured. The infant stirred again and she responded with gentle rumbles and careful nudges. Kale understood that this day had proven something vital. Intelligence, patience and calm courage could protect life even when strength alone could not. Night began to fall over the cliffs, the wind cooling and stars emerging overhead. Velora tucked the infant close, wings folding protectively. Kale and Ilara stayed at a respectful distance, observing silently. The plateau was quiet except for the soft breathing of dragon and child, punctuated by the occasional low rumble of acknowledgement. The test had ended and both human and dragon had learned from it. Kale knelt quietly watching Velora's subtle movements. "Trust tested, and passed," he whispered to Ilara. She nodded, eyes wide with understanding. The human intelligence and patience had complemented the dragon's strength and instincts, creating a bond resilient to threat. HFY shone in this moment. Humans, though physically weaker, had influenced events through empathy, observation and careful courage. Velora exhaled slowly, amber eyes softening, and the infant cooed in response. Kale realized that the test had strengthened the bond more than any calm day could. Trust, earned and proven under danger, was now stronger than ever. The infant slept peacefully against the Dragon Mother, a living symbol of the partnership between human and dragon. As the twin moons rose over the horizon, Kale whispered softly, "We've done well, together." Velora nudged the child gently, responding with a low, melodic rumble. The trust had been tested and proven. From this moment, both human and dragon knew that care, intelligence and courage could overcome fear, danger, and even instinctive aggression. The bond was no longer fragile. It was strong enough to face whatever challenges the galaxy might bring. The first rays of sunlight stretched across the cliffs, painting the rocks in gold and amber. Velora, the deadliest dragon mother, rested with the human infant cradled safely against her chest. Her massive wings wrapped protectively around him, shielding the child from the wind and any distant dangers. Kale and Ilara watched from a safe distance, their eyes wide with awe. The tests, the dangers and the uncertain beginnings had led to this moment, a fragile yet undeniable family formed in fire, courage and trust. Velora lifted her head, amber eyes sweeping across the horizon. The threats that had tested their bond were gone, retreating to the distance where they belonged. She exhaled slowly, a low rumble vibrating through the rocks, almost like a song of satisfaction. The infant cooed and stretched tiny arms, his trust in the dragon unquestioned. Kale's chest swelled with relief and wonder. He realized that what had begun as a desperate act of survival had grown into something extraordinary. Ilara knelt beside Kale, offering a soft smile. "He's happy," she whispered. The baby's gentle laughter, a sound so small yet powerful, seemed to lighten the air around the cliff. Velora shifted slightly, adjusting her wings to cradle him closer, amber eyes softening. The dragon's posture, once only sharp instinct and caution, now carried warmth and protection. Kale could see the bond had deepened. This was no longer just tolerance but affection, understanding and loyalty. Kale approached cautiously, speaking softly. "Good morning, Velora. We brought breakfast." He laid down a small tray of water and soft food for the infant, careful not to disturb the dragon's protective position. Velora watched, nostrils flaring slightly, but did not react aggressively. Instead, she nudged the baby gently toward the tray, showing subtle encouragement. The child gurgled and reached out, fingers brushing against her scales as he explored. Hours passed with quiet harmony. Kale and Ilara stayed close, providing small comforts and observing. Velora, protective and alert, allowed the humans to participate in the care of the child without letting them assume control. The dragon's trust had matured, built on days of careful observation, intelligence and patience. Each movement, each gesture, each gentle touch strengthened the bond further. The HFY elements were clear. Humans, through intelligence, empathy and courage, had earned the respect and partnership of a being far stronger and older. Suddenly, a distant rumble shook the cliffs. Kale's eyes widened and he tensed instinctively. Other dragons were approaching, perhaps drawn by curiosity or territorial instinct. Velora's posture stiffened, wings spreading slightly in preparation. But instead of panic, Kale spoke calmly, "Stay steady, we've come this far together." The infant stirred but did not cry, sensing the calm and care radiating from both humans and dragon. The rival dragons landed on a nearby ridge, their movements cautious. Velora rose to full height, wings stretching wide, amber eyes unblinking. Kale stood firmly, showing no fear, only careful confidence. The other dragons hesitated, sensing her determination and the human's intelligence. Velora exhaled a low rumble, a sound of dominance and protection. Slowly the other dragons stepped back, acknowledging her strength and the fragile family she had chosen to protect. The day unfolded with quiet lessons. Kale and Ilara learned Velora's rhythms, her subtle signs and her intelligence. Velora learned to trust the human's steady presence, recognizing that their courage and empathy matched her own protective instincts. The infant thrived in this environment, growing stronger each day under the care of the Dragon Mother. Their small family had survived tests, danger and fear, and now a routine of care, respect and mutual trust had formed. As night approached, the stars began to sparkle above the cliffs. Velora settled, curling her massive wings around the infant, and Kale stepped close, gently placing a hand on the dragon's scaled shoulder. He felt the warmth and strength beneath his fingers, the silent communication of trust. Ilara knelt on the other side, speaking softly to the infant. The baby cooed and reached out toward her, and Velora lowered her head slightly, acknowledging their bond. The wind rustled through the cliffs, carrying distant sounds of the valley below. Velora shifted slightly, ensuring the infant remained secure. Kale whispered, "We've survived together, and now we are stronger for it." The dragon's low rumble responded, almost like agreement. In that quiet moment, humans and dragon alike understood that family was more than blood or species. It was care, trust, intelligence and courage working together. In the days that followed, the bond deepened further. Kale and Ilara provided food, comfort and guidance while respecting Velora's instincts. The Dragon Mother taught the infant, through gentle gestures and careful observation, the lessons of strength, patience and awareness. Together, they created a harmony that seemed impossible at the beginning. A human child thriving under the care of a powerful ancient dragon, and humans learning from her wisdom. The cliffs no longer seemed dangerous, they had become home. Velora, Kale, and the infant moved as a single unit, alert yet calm, each understanding the other's strengths and limits. Ilara watched quietly, marveling at how fear had transformed into trust, danger into protection, and survival into a family forged in fire. HFY was clear in every action. Humans, though physically small, had influenced outcomes through intelligence, courage, and empathy, earning a place beside one of the deadliest beings in the galaxy. As the twin moons rose, casting silver light over the plateau, Velora tucked the infant closer and exhaled a long, low rumble of contentment. Kale and Alara settled nearby, keeping watch but moving with gentle confidence. The infant yawned, stretching tiny hands, completely at ease in the presence of both dragon and humans. The family, forged in fire, danger, and trust, had become unbreakable. Kale whispered softly, "We're a family now, together." Velora lowered her massive head toward the child, nudging him gently, amber eyes glowing with warmth. The bond had been tested, survived, and strengthened. Across species and generations, trust, intelligence, courage, and care had formed something extraordinary. The Deadliest Dragon Mother had cradled a human child, and humans had earned her respect. Together they would face the galaxy stronger and united, a family born of fire, patience, and the impossible made real.